Hello and welcome to our millions of viewers here in Nigeria and of course all around the world. This is Election Watch, Edo Decides, and we are live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga. The long wait is over as the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Godwin Obaseki, has been declared winner of the Edo governorship elections. We will take a look at some of the events that played out before the elections, during the elections, as well as just after the elections. I mean, just a few hours away, we saw that massive victory by the People's Democratic Party. We'll discuss all of this and how things got to play out between the major party players as well as the major gladiators in these particular elections. Now joining me at the table to do some analysis and run some commentaries on this is Barrister Destiny Takon, a constitutional lawyer, as well as Barrister Benson Enikuomehin. He's the chairman of the Eyitayo Media and Publicity Committee. Gentlemen, great to have you join me on the show this evening.
Thank you, Kelly, and good day. Good to be here again.
Okay.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you. And that you could pronounce my name so beautifully, the surname. You tried.
Okay. I hope as the show progresses, I'll probably get to settle with that name. But wonderful name. I mean, that name, just before we got on set, we're wondering, is this name Edo?
No, it's a typical Yoruba name.
Okay.
From Ilaje extraction.
Okay.
It's Enikuomehin, meaning whoever dies would not know what happens thereafter. So whatever you need to do now, do it. Because you may not
that's
be
a very strong name.
Fix your house while you're still alive.
Exactly.
Okay, gentlemen, let's get to talk about the elections in Edo State now. When we look at what has just played out, Godwin Obaseki has won the Edo governorship elections. According to history, he is the third Nigerian to win a gubernatorial elections on the platform of both the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress in the space of just 4 years. On the other hand, Pastor Izeyamu Osagezeyamu also has another history.
The flip side.
The flip side. He is the first Nigerian, officially the first Nigerian to lose a gubernatorial elections on the platform of both the PDP and the APC. But let me start with your first-hand reaction. Let me begin with you, Barrister Benson. What's your first-hand reaction to what played out in Edo State?
Well, I am not surprised at what transpired. Edo and Ondo, we shared the boundary. Interestingly, I schooled at Edo. I went to University of Benin, so I have a little understanding on how events in that state usually take place. I recall it was during Chief John Odigo Yugun when campaigns were on. We say follow who no road and all that, and you see the patterns in which elections were held then. Now, with respect to the victory of Dr. Obaseki, first and foremost, as a party man, I must congratulate him that he has won. He worked hard for it. I must also commend the APC. They tried their best. It's only that the best wasn't the best for Edo people, and Edo has spoken. And if the people have spoken, please, for goodness sake, let's allow the peace to be. And that is the decision that the Edo people have made. And that again becomes a lot of challenge for Dr. Obaseki, in the sense that now the people have trusted you. Now the people have believed you. During the first tenure, you were seen as like a puppet. Please mind my words. Quote, and seen like a puppet to somebody who was a godfather. Now, you have taken the godfather to the theater. The two of you have fought. You now discover that, truly speaking, it wasn't the godfather. It was God the Father that was your God in the first instance. And now you have won. There is much more to do, so that the confidence of the people will not be eroded. So, leading to this election, whatever a man says, the Holy Scripture says he will give account of it. And the words of your mouth are very powerful. I think the campaign made by Adam Oshiomhole, Comrade Adam Oshiomhole, in 2016, when he was campaigning for Dr. Obaseki, went a long way in putting the mind of the Edo people at rest. To say, look, how could you have come up to say somebody was yesterday a rogue, a thief, and all of a sudden you turn 360 degree, all of a sudden to say, oh no, he has now become a good man. You must have, probably maybe that would have been Saul who became Paul. For you to now come and say, oh yes, he was on his way to Damascus and God met him. At what point did you come to say, this man whom you oppose so ferociously has now become a saint?
A son.
So at just the moment, sir, I will. So the good works of Obaseki, together with the things that were said about Iseyamu, went a long way in shaping the mind of the Edo people. They took that decision, and that is the result of what we have seen.
I will take you up on some of your opening thoughts in just a moment, but let me also hear Barrister Destiny with his opening thoughts about these particular elections. You think Edo people have actually decided, in your view?
Yes, Kelly, it is very obvious that the Edo people have decided. They've spoken resoundingly to reject political pupillage, godfatherism, in other words, or in other terms, and to say that the will of the people of Nigeria in every state should be respected. You know, we are aware of what transpired, you know, just like you said in your own opening statement, that Obaseki had actually contested under the platform of the APC and was declared winner. You know, and all sorts of names, you know, you could not, uncountable, and all sorts of appellations, you know, were branded. Obaseki, it's a him when he was of the PDP, when he was of the PDP then. Okay. And then now he is a candidate of the APC, curiously, as it were, and you tell the people and say, he is a good man now, vote for him, forget what I said yesterday. Well, the people of Edo have decided that they didn't want the experience somewhere else to continue in Edo. We know where that is, you know that, and then they clearly told him and said, Edo is not like some other states. We would stand by Obaseki, our governor, whom you told us was a good man, and who by his deeds, by his works, he's proven himself to be committed, you know, and needed more time, as it were, as he had asked for, really, to finish his good works. You know, so the victory, even in Iseyamu's own local government, you know, shows that he was rejected even at home. The people from his own local government, I'm involved in politics. I've run elections. And I know what it is like to be defeated either in your polling unit or in your local government. Okay. It's a huge statement. It underscores your political strength or acceptability otherwise by your people. You know, so for him to have lost even in his own local government speaks volumes that indeed, not just that the people of Edo generally spoke, but that even people in his own household said, we do not agree with you. Obaseki is a better option for so many reasons, some of which you may not know. You know, so the people of Edo have spoken, and I say so without fear of contradiction.
Just before I came on air, I was just having a chat with my colleague, and we're just making a little fun of some posts that we saw on social media. Someone said, did the Edo people actually decide this election, or it is the work of the Abuja cabal that wants to weaken Tinubu's stronghold and incapacitate Oshomole ahead of the 2023 elections? My question now is this about permutations for 2023, Barrister Benson?
Now, the truth of the matter is that for whatever success that comes the way of a man, somebody must need wanting to play the big man as to him contributing to the success. You have read, you've got into the university, you are out, and one uncle did not contribute 1 naira, will say, I know that boy, I told him he would be a lawyer. And I was in support. In fact, when he was young, he used to speak well. I knew he was going to be, and I told him to be. The truth of the matter is this. Edo State is Edo State. The people of Edo State decided, and no one outside of Edo State went there to vote. The people of Edo State decided for Edo State, and they wanted Edo State governor. So whether somebody is from Lagos or somebody is from Abuja, those days are gone, and gone for good. For goodness sake, you don't rule my house for me. I am the husband of a wife, and I manage my house and manage my children. How dare you come from somewhere and somebody will now come and say some persons did not participate in the political affair of this country. As a result, I am a Democrat. I have told them not to vote for him. That can be, it's more or less like a sacrilege. How dare you make such a statement? So the people of Edo State,
are you probably referring to the political broadcast by the APC leader Ahmed Tinubu? Are you suggesting in any way that probably that political broadcast probably contributed negatively?
Of course, yes. I'll be very glad if I have good respect for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's a senior to me by reason of age. He's been the governor of Lagos State for 8 years, so I have respect for him. But I'll be so glad that he will come to Ondo State. You know, our election is not too far away from me. I am appealing to him by this medium to make such a statement also for Ondo State. And so it's going to go a long way. People must be careful. The days are gone when you don't decree. If you're a Democrat, I would have expected that when it comes to say, okay, this candidate, please support him. Not for you to tell them, such and such a person didn't participate in democracy, and therefore you must reject him. At what point did he himself, did he start to participate in politics? What would the likes of Awolowo have said about him? When those who fought for the freedom of Nigeria?
I see you nodding. You seem to agree that that political broadcast by the APC chieftain or leader Tinubu, you think it was
counterproductive, in my view. It was counterproductive. It went further to buttress what I've said earlier about political pupillage and godfatherism, of which, as it were, people are beginning to come to terms with the fact that it is the bane of development and lack of cohesion, unity, irresponsibility in governance, and lack of accountability. You know, I mean, Asiwaju is of Lagos State, and we're talking about Edo State, and then you'd say he is not a Democrat. Who is a Democrat? Buhari was sold out to Nigerians as a Democrat. But that's not what I see today. I've not seen any form of that likeliness in the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's been more dictatorial, in my view, than anybody else, than anything else. In my view, he still acts as if he were a soldier. Now,
once a soldier, always a soldier.
Now, yeah, not to take the hype away from the subject. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what he did in having to tell Edo people, it was more like a decree, you know, an order, a directive.
I mean, but he's a national leader of the All Progressive Congress. I don't mean to hold brief for the APC, but what do you expect a national leader of the party to do?
No, just like
support for the
my
party.
co-panelists and colleagues said the right thing. I'm involved. I'm not measuring up in terms of politics and say, but I'm involved in politics, and I think I know better. If I had opportunity, some people have, I would talk differently.
Okay.
You know, it's about appeal.
Let's do a direct comparison between Tinubu's political broadcast and the statements from a former APC national chairman, John Modiyegun. He also put out a statement, and in the end he rounded off by saying, look, Edo people, vote for your conscience.
Well, like my learned friend had said, there is a difference between decree and appeal. In democracy, you appeal to the people. Now, if Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu were to be addressing his party members, it would be a different ball game altogether. Even to party members, there is a limit to which you can give them order. Let alone you were addressing the whole nation, and you centered your discourse on Edo State, and now you told the people you are not from Edo State, for goodness sake. You don't even share boundary with Edo State. You are from Lagos. You need to cross Ogun. You need to cross Ondo before you can get to Edo, and you sat somewhere in Lagos and issue a decree to the people of Edo State. It can be very annoying. And I'm sure the people took that very seriously. And if there was going to be any modicum of sympathy for Iseyamo, that remove it automatically. And that's why I'm pleading that if you have the opportunity of doing it for Ondo State, let him come and make that statement, and then it will assist us.
We will come back. We will come back in a moment and keep speaking about the elections in Edo State and what has played out. Let's quickly tell you that state has 18 local government areas, and the People's Democratic Party won in about 13 local government areas in that state, while the APC had victories in 5 local government areas. We will also come back and talk about how come the elections were probably peaceful as projected. We had 14 local government mapped out as flashpoint, and then it played out that probably the deployment of 31,000 police officers by the Inspector General of Police probably played a massive role in ensuring a peaceful poll. That in a moment. Stay with us. welcome back, and wherever you're watching from around the world, we're live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria. You're watching Election Watch, Edo Decides. And of course, it's a big historic day for the People's Democratic Party. Godwin Obaseki has been declared winner of the 2020 Edo Guber Post. We'll talk about the state of security in just a moment, but while we went on that short break, my guests here in the studio, both of them constitutional lawyers, Barrister Destiny Takon as well as Barrister Benson Eniku Omehin, the chairman of Eyitayo Media and Publicity Committee. Barrister Benson, you were just saying that probably Ize-Iyamu should have stayed in the People's Democratic Party.
You see, I am from the riverside in Ondo State, and I do know that there is always a tide in the affairs of man. You know, the period of high tide, the water will come inside. The period of low tide, the water goes into the sea. So when you swim against the tide, you run into challenge. And so it would be wise, and it would have been wise if Ize-Iyamu had remained consistent with the PDP. But because
if you're talking about the tide, I'm wondering, because Obaseki was with the tide,
just a moment.
So he would have thought that, well, I'm going to meet Oshomole.
No, the people of Edo State are the people to decide. He went outside Edo State to go and look for one man who could make him lord over the people.
A former governor, two-time governor, a former chairman of the All Progressive Congress.
A man, just one man. Former governor, former NLC leader, former whatever, one man.
With massive followership. I mean, but just before Obaseki became governor, probably a lot of persons didn't know Obaseki. I mean, we cannot undermine the influence of Oshomole in that particular election.
Yes, when Obaseki was to come on board, Comrade Adam Oshomole told us, and I listened to him carefully, that Obaseki was a pillar behind his government. He said for 8 years that Obaseki worked assiduously to make a success of that government. In fact, he named one of the buildings that was built by Obaseki at the cost, not to government. And so it said this was the brain behind what we're doing. Like what happened in Lagos State here. You recall Fashola SAN was not really too known when Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu said he would be the governor. And so he brought him out. And when that man came on board, he did his best for Lagos State. When at that time I was a member of the PDP, and I remain in PDP. But whenever I came to Lagos and I saw the things that Fashola was doing, I could not but praise him. I couldn't, because that was the truth. Therefore, he introduced Obaseki to the whole world. Now, the same Adam Oshomole also told the whole world who Ize-Iyamu is all about. He described him with all the despicable languages and words that are ever known to human race.
As a politician,
at a point, he raised up his hand that God was his witness. That if he was lying.
But we all know that politicians can always
no, you see, there's a limit to which you can use words.
We'll come back to you, but let me cross over to Barrister Takon. Talk us through what you think might be going through the mind of Pastor Osage Ize-Iyamu at the moment.
Regret. So much regret, as it were.
You think so?
Yes, certainly. Regret. I mean, this is once bitten. This is the second time by the same man. And of course, it doesn't matter that the platforms were now swapped.
Different platforms.
Yeah, they were swapped. But importantly, it is once bitten. It's by the same man. And
in a span of 4 years.
Why did he do what he did? That's what they were asking. You know, still setting his mind. I think that there was some bit of desperation to be governor of Edo State. And so, like a lot will say, the end justifying the means. It doesn't matter what you do, just so you get it. You know, so he put aside all of his avowed, known, or acclaimed principles, as it were, and went to the man who had adjudged him and declared him, you know, to the whole world to be a person, you know, a persona non grata, that a person who has no dignity, no principle, no respect, who was not to be taken seriously. How could you have it? It's like knowing well that they say you dine with the devil is a common saying with a long spoon or whatever, it may be a fork, but it has to be a long one. Now somebody is an avowed opponent who has called you unprintable names, and now just for the sake of power, you're desperate to become, that's my view, governor of Edo State. So he goes to him. Some of us think that he won the election when he was the candidate of the PDP, even though Obaseki was declared the winner by INEC. Of course, that is flowing from my experience with previous elections and several elections that came up after then under this administration. And so it would have been better off for him to have stayed back in the PDP. And then, of course, knowing whatever his mistakes or flaws or weaknesses were, in 2016, he would have, you know, punched up and blocked all of the loopholes and consolidated on his foundation and structure with a view to, you know, tackling the APC head on. But what did he do? He abandoned and then just only hoped that the godfather of Edo State politics, I mean, and it personally...
And probably federal might?
Well, if you say that, yeah, but don't forget, well, that's the same state where Oyegu is from. And then Oyegu, who's been governor, who's been chairman of the party, who's been everything, and then one person says he wants to. So first of all, there was even some degree or some kind of rivalry between Oshomole and Oyegu, for a start, as to who is the godfather of Edo State politics. And then, of course, you went to Oshomole, he picked Oshomole, and he thought that he could make him, you know, the governor of Edo State. But the outcome is very clear. The people saw through him and Oshomole and said, it kept coming on social media everywhere. Edo is not Lagos. We will not allow that to happen here.
Let's cross over this.
You said something too that I thought to talk about. The appeal between what John Oyegu said and what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, you know, their speeches, yes. And I thought that Oyegu was diplomatic, was a better politician, in my view, than what Asiwaju did, you know, in having to appeal to the people. It is not, the best way to show somebody in opposition to him is not to be aggressive or antagonistic. You could woo a person over, even win the sympathy of your opponent by your approach. So Asiwaju's approach is not compatible at all. Like I said, it was counterproductive.
Let's talk about the fact that the IGP deployed about 31,000 police officers to a state with just 18 local government areas. That's about an average of 1,000, maybe 722 police officers to per local government. I'm just a bit concerned as to just how much difference did this make to these particular elections, Vice Takon?
Well, in a way you might say it worked, but truly, if you look at the size of a local government and spread 1,700 police officers, it wouldn't do very much. If you want to count how many hamlets,
so you probably would have even preferred more security presence.
Well, not in my view, because that only amounts to intimidation. I mean, having to, because if nothing happened with 31, I'm sure even if you had 15,000, nothing would have happened. But one thing that was very clear, I thought they did that just to intimidate the Edo people, because the resolve of the Edo people was very clear. The people had said and made known to the entire world that they wanted to vote Obaseki. that they were rejecting APC, probably not necessarily as a party, but because of what I said earlier on political privilege or godfatherism. The people felt like it was an affront on their political will and on mandate, if you will. And so they thought that, look, we would prove to these powers that be in the APC who are behind this, that want to ensure that Oshomole is installed or invested as the political godfather of Edo State. Okay, so they moved against it.
Okay.
So that's what really happened.
Barrister Benson, you want to talk about the level of security presence, 31,000 police officers, inclusive of about 7,000 plus NSCDC officials as well as the military.
I think it's a sad commentary that at this junction, at this level of our development, we will still need 31,000 policemen to come and secure election. Our people are not barbaric, for goodness sake. The political class must know that the people now know very well, and therefore they shouldn't take them for granted. The people of Edo State comported themselves well, and they went voting, and they did it. The police were not the one that were guiding them on whether you should talk or you should not talk. They were not holding guns. Just policemen. Some of these policemen, you know, some persons who are even boxers. They can't face them when they come to one-on-one. Why don't we deploy these 31,000 people to Sambisa or deploy them to Southern Kaduna? So what has the government appears not to be on the serious level. Just a moment. Okay. You recall.
I'm just wondering. Our elections have been marred over the years by political thuggery, violence, and a lot of mayhem unleashed on voters.
We built on something. Unfortunately, we are losing it. Professor Atairu Jega developed our electoral system to 11. Wherein the card readers and things were introduced. I have thought that the present leadership of INEC would have built on it. A time came when people were just willing to go to the polling unit, cast their vote, and if you emerge as a winner, you do. Why do we now need 345,000 policemen? How many are they going to deploy to Ondo? If they deploy 31, are they going to deploy 62,000 to Ondo? So for goodness sake, while it is good that the police should come around, they don't do this somewhere else. We all travel. These our leaders, they travel. If you do the right thing, the people will do the right thing. It is because there is the tendency to manipulate. And that was why they brought this number of persons. And for your information, the people of Edo State took this decision on about 2 or 3 grounds. One, the federal government has just inflicted pain by reason of the increase in petroleum, by reason of the increase in electricity, and then somebody came bragging. Recall, Oshiomhole said he was going to sack godfatherism in Edo, and he dealt very seriously with the late elder statesman, Chief Anini, and said no, he didn't want godfatherism. All of a sudden, Animal Farm is playing out. All 4 less good, 2 less bad, and now you are now singing 2 less better. What's going on? The people of Edo State said no. You have just inflicted pain on us, and you are coming to come and introduce the same godfatherism that you condemn. We will not take it. And above all, we know Obaseki. Obaseki has done well with us. This is a yam which you have now brought all of a sudden. You told us that the man was a rogue. You told us that the man had nothing to do. Secretary to government, what was his name? Chief of staff, and he had nothing to offer. At what point did you take him to the school of Oshomolism to train him overnight to become somebody that is good, and then you knelt down before the traditional ruler and raise up your hand. Say, sorry, I was 64 when I made this, but now I'm now 68. I will not be telling lies. So you were telling lies all the while from 64.
Let's talk about the fact that this was the first off-season elections in the COVID-19 era, where we stay closely with the police, the Nigeria police, Barrister Takon. There were issues of voters at least complying with the use of face masks. However, the issue of physical and social distancing was a massive problem. I mean, you could see the voters. There was no physical distancing. And I'm wondering particularly, whose place is it to enforce this physical distancing? I mean, for instance, when you walk into some organizations, some banks, even some organizations, you find that there's this notice. Even in sitting, even in sitting arrangements. I mean, you know that you have to keep this space. But in these elections, we could see massive voters, and it was just issues of overcrowding and all of that. So, was the police responsible for enforcing this aspect of physical and social distancing?
Well, perhaps the police should have been responsible for enforcing it, but they were not sent there for that purpose. And even the police within Edo State, who were naturally deployed to that state before the elections, were not doing that. And it's not just in Edo State alone. It's happening in Lagos. I just came back from Akure this morning. As a matter of fact, the first thing that struck me when I entered the city of Akure on Friday, I said, I didn't see anybody wearing a face mask. That was the first thing. And then I was also, what month was that? In August, I was in Cross River State. So I'm just saying that not to point at Edo alone or Ondo. It's happening everywhere. But perhaps people...
Do you agree for Ondo State? I mean, because we know you are from Ondo State.
He can't contest.
Yes, of a truth. Of a truth. I mean, he has just spoken the truth. But you see, I have another dimension to this COVID-19 or COVID-19.
I wanted to deal with that.
Yes. So the truth, he has spoken the truth. Whether COVID is still existing, or COVID has traveled back, or COVID is dead, or COVID is cut off.
Yes.
So something must have happened to this COVID, so that nobody play pranks on us.
Exactly.
You can go on with your thoughts.
And then also, you see, even those who are supposed to enforce these protocol have been observing it in default. We've seen it far back from the death of and burial of Abba Kyari and several other state burials, that even the state officials themselves do not observe this. And so, and every day people look around and ask questions and say, I've been in Lagos before COVID. I walk around, I go around before the total lockdown, and when it was relaxed, and up to this point when it is further relaxed, I do not know anybody who knows somebody who has taken ill for COVID indeed. Well, we're not saying that there's no pandemic in the world. There is. But I wrote on social media and I said, maybe there's something about us. Maybe there's something about our weather. Maybe there's something that has made it not as effective as it is elsewhere against us. And gradually, even the daily...
Maybe it's our testing capacity as a nation, as a state.
Okay, fine. But then, I can't remember how many... naturally, wherever you live, I know where I live. Where I moved from to where I'm living today. I can't remember in the last 4 months that anybody died within, as much as I can tell. So if it's about testing, how about those who've been dying? If to predict that over 133,000 Africans will be dying, I didn't see anybody fall on the street and die like they projected. I've not seen any cops on the road that say they died from COVID, so Nigerians are afraid to go near. not in any part of Lagos with relaxation.
No,
now, I'm not watering down.
Yes, because
I know your stand.
I'm going to say that at some
I
point,
know your yes.
The health ministry even said the morgues were filled. So
well, I mean, now I know
doubt the existence of.
I'm not using this medium. I'm not using this. Don't bother.
Maybe aside the COVID-19, maybe we should just leave that and talk about the electoral process.
I wanted to clear that so that nobody thinks that I'm using this medium to. I'll just give you my view. It's my opinion.
Okay, your view.
It's my opinion.
In the next 10-15 seconds, let me allow you round off on that.
Very well. So as it were, I think that they borrowed a leaf. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The non-compliance with the protocols, probably Nigerians all over the states of mention borrowed a leaf from the state officials who themselves have not been observing.
Okay, but
well, the truth of the matter is that I am not in doubt whether COVID exists or not. But the situation we have on ground, we do not expect that COVID will last forever. A pandemic ought not to last for generations. Okay. Probably maybe in our own climb, with prayers, with the earlier part of this compliance, that particular pandemic has reduced to the barest minimum. But the cinema houses are now being opened, schools are being opened, and we are not hearing those world composition of what COVID was all about. We pray hard that this COVID will go and go for good. Therefore, Nigerians are bound. When government relaxes this situation, the people also must relax. In my state, like you pointed out, COVID is almost going. A governor got COVID, and within 3 days it's over. So if a governor can be healed,
probably
yes. So
gentlemen, let's cross over live to Benin City, the Edo State capital, where correspondent Dele Faso is standing by. Dele, if you can hear me loud and clear, I would like you to talk us through the atmosphere in that state at the moment. As Godwin Obaseki has been declared winner of the 2020 governorship elections.
That's very correct. It has been a fantasy all around Benin. Actually, I'm standing at Ring Road here, In the initial stage, the whole place was crowded, but behind me here, you see traders are coming, say life has returned to normal, Everywhere we go, just about an hour ago, when the governor spoke with us there, a lot of people that were celebrating here all moved now to the government house area, where they are celebrating with the governor. But one thing all of them have in common by saying is that they are thanking the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for creating an enabling environment for this election to be peaceful, both security-wise and that of INEC, the umpire.
Also made a public address just yet. Now, I'd like you to confirm if the governor-elect, Godwin Obaseki, has probably made any official address just yet.
Yes, if he heard me clearly, about an hour ago, we were invited by the governor, where he was flanked with the governor of Rivers State and governor of Delta State. The governor of Oyo State as well was there, but he left. Where the governor, elect Godwin Obaseki, and the Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, they said the same thing. They said that the victory is the collective will of the people, and that shows it has brought an end to godfatherism in Edo State. He hammered especially on that godfatherism aspect, and he also thanked the People's Democratic Party for giving him that platform to become governor. All what himself and the governor of Rivers State were saying, that just thanking the president, thanking the people of Edo State, and thanking the PDP, that the end to godfatherism happened that yesterday, Saturday 19, when everybody came out en masse to vote the governor.
Well, Dele, confirm for us the camp of the All Progressive Congress, the APC, that's Pastor Sage Zeyamu's camp. Any report of violence, and just how do you think the APC camp is probably taking this news of Obaseki's victory?
actually, as I speak with you, there's no official statement from the camp. But most of those jubilant supporters of the PDP, we see, some were even carrying APC flag. That is to tell you, some APC supporters are mixing up with the PDP supporters in celebrating the victory. One of our correspondents, Kule Ojo, spoke with Eze Yamu earlier yesterday, and he said after, definitely later today, he will address the media of the opposition. But as I speak with you, there's no official statement from the All Progressives Congress.
Well, a correspondent, Dele Faso, reaching us live from Benin City, the Edo State capital. Well, Dele, thank you so much indeed. Stay safe. Back here in the studios, gentlemen, let's keep talking about this landslide victory for the People's Democratic Party and indeed Godwin Obaseki. Prior to the elections, there were allegations and counter-allegations. It's an off-season elections. It's the first in the COVID-19 era. And let's talk about the fact that Obaseki had to cross over in the last minute to the P. And what do you think may probably play out now that he has won? Is he going to cross over back to the APC, you think?
Yeah, definitely, I don't think that will happen. His crossing over to the PDP was circumstantial, and the situation on ground warranted that he needed to do that. Because you can imagine a sitting governor going for an interview that he went 4 years backward, and he was cleared by the party, and now went to that same interview. Nothing has changed. He has not gone to a new school, or that the old school had not been abolished, and he came and you said the man is not qualified. You know, there are things we should not do with impunity. People shouldn't do things with impunity. I think it's a blessing for the PDP. I rejoice with Governor Obaseki. So the PDP accepted him, and he came and won. And you heard what the gentleman said, that the man thanked the people, thanked Mr. President, and then thanked the PDP for giving him the opportunity to do a second term in the state. I think we need to work with the PDP and go ahead and actualize.
Let's talk about the body language of Mr. President. Prior to elections, there was also a statement put out by the presidency. Garba Shehu came out to say, look, the president has said these elections has to be free and fair. Brasatako, you think that also played a massive role in ensuring a credible polls in Edo State?
I'm tempted to agree, even if, of course, I've had I take that with a pinch of salt. Why do I say I take it with a pinch of salt? The elections that have been held, by-elections under Mr. President, have been very, very studied and unfortunate in the outcomes. I mean, either for inconclusiveness, for the purpose of what we later see to unfold to be that his party, I'd like to be very particular, will eventually win, even in situations where a very infinitesimal part of the constituency, was what was left. They had to declare the elections inconclusive and then held elections again and turn in all of the military, police and whatever might in there to suppress the people and win. So that didn't happen in Edo. So that's what same thing with a pinch of salt I said. I'm tempted to agree. Okay. Would it be that, as I said earlier, that the will of the Edo people was too obvious? That if anything contrary to their will, that political will was done, they probably would be violent. People would probably react. And maybe because of the pressure also from the international community. Just before this election, we are aware that there were certain more sanctions against some members of the ruling party.
Restrictions,
Yes, for their interference with democracy. So you could never tell. Maybe it is the international pressure. Maybe it's the will, the collective will, the very palpable collective will of the Edo people, which the president saw and said, or maybe it is a turnaround now to say, let's begin to do things better. And I pray so. I so much pray that is a turnaround. Because we so need it in this country. So that it falls somewhere within those, all of those, and probably
Benson, do you agree that probably the visa restrictions and ban from the US and the UK, few days to the elections, threatening to penalize alleged or supposed riggers in these particular elections, do you think that played a role to ensuring a credible polls in Edo State? You think so?
If it were left to some of these leaders, they wouldn't mind if 450 million persons, assuming we're up to that number in Nigeria, if they perish, they don't give a damn. But because of...
Why do you say so?
Just a moment. A good number of them are just simply selfish. A good number of the leaders, and majority who have ruled...
I mean, when you mean leaders, you mean politicians?
Politicians are the ones that have led us. They've led us by the nose, and they have done all that they felt like doing. They won't allow the will of the people to prevail. But because
I'm wondering why you're using
no,
because you're also a politician. So
yes,
why you are using
you know why?
I'm concerned. I think you should
I can say mine here openly. I have had the opportunity to serve in a high-profile commission. I was the Ondo State representative on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NDDC, from 2019, precisely on the 17th of December 2019, to on the 13th of September 2011. I sat as the commissioner.
Okay, let's go back to the subject.
I am saying
the UK and the US ban and restrictions.
Why I'm saying
do you think that played a very crucial role?
You would have allowed me to learn so that thing would gel. When I just say the political leaders, I didn't join them in messing up. I was not part of it.
Right, that's it.
Therefore, the sanction on them, it is not because they love the people. Then, if we are to run away, these people will not allow us. Allow them first to mellow down. Two, the people of Edo State took the decision for themselves. I don't want to give any kudos to any person for whether he allowed it to happen or not. This was a decision of the people of Edo. And you can feel the pulse in the air. The scripture talks about when there was darkness in Egypt, that you could almost feel the effect of the darkness. So the situation in Edo State could be felt not only in Aso Rock, in any of the rocks all over the world. That if you mess up with Edo State, you are igniting something. And so let the sleeping dog, let it continue to sleep. And therefore, the sanction contributed. And those of them who know that they have assets outside the shore of Nigeria, and that they are not going to be allowed, their children may not be allowed to go. So, if this is going to be the case, please, let's mellow down.
So, are you hoping, as the chairman of the Utah Media and Publicity Committee, are you hoping that these sanctions also extends to the elections in Ondo State, which plays out of October 10th?
What happens in Edo will happen mutatis mutandis, like lawyers would say, in Ondo State. The event of Edo State is a precursor to what will likely take place in Ondo State. Our minds are made up.
We will talk about that in a moment because we'll look at some of the lessons learned from these elections and get to talk about Ondo State in just a moment. But all over the internet and social media, people have been commending the people of Edo. I mean, gentlemen, you have also commended the people of Edo, the roles they played very crucial in this particular elections. Yes, and so when you cross over now to Ondo State and you look at the people of Ondo State, do you think that they are also going to show this kind of courage and boldness?
You know, the history about Ondo State. Ondo State is peculiar among the states in Nigeria. Take note, in 2015, the people of Ondo State, contrary to the power of incumbency, voted for APC. Then, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko was the governor of Ondo State. He was of the PDP extraction. He was the chairman of the Southwest. He was the coordinator for Dr. Goodluck Jonathan for that particular election.
All right.
And the people, contrary to what people desire, they voted against.
Okay.
But again, in 2019, again, they said, we are tired of APC. They went ahead, notwithstanding that Arakuni Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, the governor, the president still sitting, they went ahead and voted with over 50,000 margin. We have 2 senators. And so when, for example,
Mr. Benson, I would have to
oh no,
just put you on hold now.
But again, the truth of the matter is that
because when we come back at 6 p.m., we will look at Edo elections briefly and get to touch on Ondo elections, the lessons learned from Edo, and what possibly will play out in Ondo State in a moment. But I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show. Barrister Destiny Takum, legal practitioner, as well as Barrister Benson Eniku Omehin.
Oh, great, you are right.
He's the chairman of Eyitayo Media and Publicity Committee
in Ondo State.
In Ondo State. Gentlemen, that's about the show, but we're back again at 6 p.m. as we continue with our special coverage of the 2020 Edo Guber polls. I'm Kelly Ekiga. We urge you to stay with Galaxy TV.